CineSmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is CineSmack! And the winner is...
Hello, CineSmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 87 of CineSmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, writer, actor, and director, Mr. Tosh Dillinger.
Wait. I gotta start the song over. Okay, go.
Nice. Second, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Mr. Garror.
You get 4 minutes. That's it.
Oh, 4 minutes, huh? I thought
God damn it.
Or is it 5? I don't
It's
remember.
5.
It's 5
Is it
minutes.
5? Damn it. All right, I'll give you 5. That's it.
Insert losing Price is Right song. Third, writer, actor, and director, Mr. Kyle Fine.
Gabe, you kind of stepped on my intro. Look,
Damn it.
I give you 3 hours of a podcast. Anything happens 1 minute either side of that, you're on your own. For that 3 hours, I'm paying a little bit of attention, no matter what happens.
Let's hope it doesn't go 3 hours.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Mr. Timothy Haggis.
Hey, I don't have a joke, so I totally was not ready. I'm not kidding. Like, you started the show, and I was like plugging in microphones and headphones and setting preferences inside Skype. So, hi, is what you're gonna get today.
Hey,
Hey,
you were too busy messing with your Jinkos.
to be honest with you, I was actually when the show started, I was actually getting dressed.
Oh,
Totally serious. I was getting out of my gym clothes, and I was like, I got time.
I know. You got your webcam on.
yeah, you shouldn't video call, Tom.
So our summer of action continues. Actually, it kicks off this month.
It kicks into drive.
Oh, I see what you did there.
That's it. I'm done.
That's it. We're done. All right. Good show, guys.
All right, let's go ahead and poke the monkey, find out what we're doing this month.
Ladies and gentlemen, liars and thieves, welcome to the main event. Tonight, we hit the gas and burn some rubber as a pair of getaway drivers face off in a bout of chrome, asphalt, and cold hard cash. It's baby versus kid to see who gets away scot-free and who gets nabbed by the boys in blue. In the first corner, from 2011, written by Hossein Amini, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, starring Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan, and Bryan Cranston. Drive! In the second corner, from 2017, written and directed by Edgar Wright, starring Ansel, Elgort, Lily James, and John Hamm. Baby Driver!
Okay, well, this is the first time I've been able to view both of these films, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. And I'm probably going to chime in with some things while you discuss them. So let's move on to our first round, which is writing.
So, Mike, is this the first time you've seen either of these?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is the first time I'd seen Baby Driver, but it's because it's kind of new, and I don't get very many opportunities to go to new films. So, but I had seen Drive a while back, and I think it was a recommendation of mine in a previous
I
episode.
believe it was.
And I actually really enjoy both of these movies. I was a little skeptical about Baby Driver. I remember seeing previews and that kind of thing, and knowing it was Edgar Wright, I was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of interested, but I don't know. But I enjoyed it a lot. I think the writing is pretty solid on both of these. This is going to be a tough category. One thing I have to say about Baby Driver, though, is that I felt like the setup was a little bit cliche. The whole kind of thing, well, that this guy is obligated to do one last job for this mob boss kind of thing seems a little bit cliche. Like, we've heard this before. But I think really where it redeems itself is in the character development and the uniqueness of the characters and the details and the quirks that each of these characters have. And then, of course, this will come in later episodes, things like, the relationship to the music and those kinds of things. That centers more around, editing and directing and those kinds of things. And I really thought Drive was a really solid, well-written film too. It's got some of those cliche things as well, but I felt like it escaped those cliches a little bit better than Baby Driver did. You can't. I don't know. As far as I felt like the dialogue was good, but not much for either of these really. What we could talk about that maybe in the acting as well, but it seems like these drivers, for some reason, they're men of few words, and maybe that's because of what they do, and maybe that's cliche too. They're men of few words, and they speak through their actions, their driving, and that kind of thing. But I did enjoy both of these, and I think both are well written. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that.
I thought Baby Driver was better written than Drive, because I think the script for Drive was like 5 pages, because so much time is spent on reaction shots and looking at each other, and you really could edit it down to like 15 minutes, and obviously there's pacing issues and that kind of thing, but no, they're just I felt like when I watched Drive, I really like it, and I feel like there's like there's an award, like an Oscar award winning short film in there that they just stretched into almost 2 hours. On the other hand, I feel like there's a lot more twists and turns, and it's funny because when I watched Drive the first time, when I saw it when it first came out, the opening scene, the getaway scene at the beginning, I remember it being really tense and really exciting. And then, a year passed and I saw Baby Driver and I saw those car chases. And then, so for this, I went back last week and I watched Drive again. And I'm like, I can't believe how tame this getaway is, compared to after seeing Baby Driver. Because I mean, really, he does like 2 or 3 decent things. Whereas Baby Driver, the opening scene is just fantastic. And, I don't really know what that has to do with writing, but like you said, I think character development is better in Baby Driver also.
So, yeah, I agree with most of the stuff you guys have said already. Drive, it does feel a little bit long here and there, but I think it has a very solid plot. The problem is they stretch that plot forever and ever and ever to take up those 2 hours. But we can get to that when we talk in the acting, because I think a lot of that has to do with the way some of the acting and the directing was done. Did anybody notice, just something I'll bring up, anybody notice that Baby Driver, when you kind of think about how the action is plotted and paced, it feels like a song. It starts with, this like kicking intro, and then there's almost like a chorus verse where they repeat scenes from time to time, and then they have these breaks where he's with the girl in the car, or at the end where they feel like solos or like middle 8 breaks or rests in the song and stuff like that. I don't know why I thought of that, but I thought of it at the end of the movie.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Sure.
With that, the way that movie's put together.
Yeah, both these movies I give a lot of credit for feeling very meticulously put together. they obviously are things that were labors of love for the people involved, and they did a hell of a lot of work to make them into the films they became. The plot in both is a little contrived. I find Drives slightly more interesting because it's almost a parable of a fable and more of a character study about this man and what he wants to be and who he really is and the world that he's in. In Baby Driver, you kind of start off with this incredible car chase scene, and it really is, I mean, spectacular. It really is amazing. And then it's just like the movie slows down a little bit, and some of the dialogue becomes a little over the top. Some of the situations, it's not the most realistic movie. Some of the situations seem a little bit contrived, but damn, it's a hell of a lot of fun. And the action keeps moving. You never get bored despite it being like 2 hours long. I think both of these movies are very well written. They're very differently paced. Both of them, there's so many similarities between the antagonist or the protagonists in the movies, though. It's really funny about how quiet they are. They wear sunglasses. They wear, they're excellent behind the wheel. They have all these similarities, but very different motivations, and who they really are deep down inside are very different people.
Yeah, you guys just took all the thunder, so way to go. Good job, guys. And I this is going to shock you guys, but I'm going to agree with Tom more than anyone else. Drive could have, Tom and I are holding hands right now in our what were you wearing, Tom?
Gym shorts, but I'm naked now, but I do still have one hand free.
Good. Wow.
Oh,
right.
My.
Anyway, maybe I don't agree with Tom anymore. I agree with Tom. The Drive does feel like it could be condensed way down, and it did seem like there was a lot of reactionary shots, but we'll get some more of that in directing. And Baby Driver, didn't really know a whole lot going into that, and that really. Like after it, I was talking to Gabe about this. I was like, man, I really enjoyed Baby Driver. It's like I told my wife, she didn't watch it with me. I'm like, you need to watch this because this is a very interesting movie, and we'll get more to that in directing and stuff. But yeah, I'm agreeing with Tom more here than anything.
All right, you guys have anything else you want to say about writing? Seems like you hit all the buttons.
I thought the use of music in within the telling the story. I know we usually say music for later, but I feel like Baby Driver, I'm going to mention it here just because it helped push the story so much. And I feel like those were notes that Edgar put in the script before they shot anything rather than something that they'd say for later. So I'm going to just mention the song choices because I thought it was really well done. And they didn't lean too much on those songs that we know, all too well, the Little Green Bag and stuff like that gets used over and over again. He really kind of thought outside the box in that aspect.
Yeah, and I'm sure he had those songs in mind, or at least many of them in mind when he was writing.
Oh, I have some trivia for that.
Yeah, so I'm sure it was influential in the writing process in this case.
Just a quick roundtable question: can anybody think of another movie where the music drives the movie so much as it does in Baby Driver, other than a musical? Because I can't think of another movie where the music drives the action and is such an integral part. Okay. Yeah.
Part one.
But in some cases in Baby Driver, the music actually comes into the world.
Right.
Where, during that opening dance scene, the lyrics and the things that are happening in the song are written and interspersed throughout the world as he's moving around.
I'd argue Guardians of the Galaxy also, just because it's such an important part of the story, and it's used very practically as well.
Okay. I'm trying to think of some others.
Not as much as Baby Driver. I would say Baby Driver does better. So it's interesting because they didn't used to do this. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, movies didn't integrate older music into the movies into the way like this, where it pushed the plot along, and it was like its own separate, how can we sell so many CDs? And now it's how can we enhance the story with this music?
Well, Tarantino's always kind of been known for that. He's very meticulous on the music that he picks for his films.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think of even Reservoir Dogs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The music is pretty important in Reservoir Dogs, and it even drives some of the dialogue. At the very beginning sequence where they're talking about Madonna like a virgin and all that.
Right.
And then there's the whole
Dick,
ear cut dick, yeah. And then the whole ear cutting scene. Obviously, the music is really important there. I mean, that in that case, the music is diegetic. It's part of the world that the characters are in, but it's obviously instrumental and was probably, I imagine he had that song in mind when he was writing too. But yeah, so Quentin Tarantino would definitely be somebody who does that a lot.
All right. I don't know. I've always used music to help me write certain scenes. I don't know why, but whenever I hear a song, I can usually put a scene to it. Like I have 100 scenes that will probably never see the light of day in my head, but when I hear that song, they just start playing in my head, and it's awesome. I guess that's just the way I learned to edit and cut that way, which I'll get into with our recommendations. But yeah, I really, really like the use of the music in both of these films. But I agree with you guys that Edgar Wright sat down and he's like, I need this song for this part, and it's going to be timed out this way. But I don't want to get in too much with that because I have some trivia. So let's go ahead and vote. Gabe.
Does the trivia involve Guardians of the Galaxy?
No.
Good, because I have a trivia about that later. Good.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, Gabe.
This is tough. I think they're both well written. I think I'm going to go with Drive in this category just because I think it's a little less cliche than the setup for Baby Driver.
All right.
Don't get me wrong. I love both of these films. So.
Kyle.
I don't want to take anything away from Drive. I love the movie. I think a lot of the heavy lifting in Drive is done by the acting and maybe not so much by what's put on the page. It's very well structured and has to be put together that way to get something out of it. But the script for Baby Driver, to craft this kind of world and everything that happens in it, is, I think, really exceptional. So I'm going to go with Baby Driver.
All right. Tosh.
Yep, I'm going to go with Baby Driver. I enjoyed it more than Drive for writing.
All right. Tom.
Okay, Tosh is totally going to hate me on this because I'm going back to the whole idea that there's a really well-written movie, and I almost want to... I'm going to fault the directing and editing for why Drive is so difficult to get through, but there's a really good story there that's not as cliched as the one in Baby Driver, so I'm going to go for Drive. But I'll make it up to you, Baby Driver. Stick around.
All right. Okay, trivia. Hossein Amini felt that the source novel for Drive was a rare book to receive from a studio because it was short, gloomy, and like a poem. Because the novel does not present a linear story but has many flashbacks and jumps around in time, Amini found the adaptation challenging. He felt the non-linear structure made it a very tricky structure, quote unquote, for a feature film. Edgar Wright had been sitting on the idea for Baby Driver for many years. His first use of it was a music video he directed for British electronic duo Mint Royale and their track Blue Song. The video stars Noel Fielding as a music-loving getaway driver for a group of bank robbers, one of whom is Wright's regular Nick Frost. A clip from the video is featured in the film when channels are being flipped through on the television in Baby's apartment. There you go. All right, let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
Let's start with Baby Driver. I do not know Ansel Elgort, I think is his name. How you pronounce it, I'm not sure.
Oh, that's close enough.
All right, right on. Hadn't seen anything he'd been in before. And to be honest, he kind of took a while for me to get used to and actually like. Mm-hmm. I liked Jamie Foxx. I liked John Hamm. I thought sometimes they were a little over the top, but maybe that's part of the movie. I thought Christopher Plummer was frightening in this movie. He was very sinister. He could be very quiet, but when he got loud, it felt aggressive and like dangerous. So I thought that went pretty well. I liked his. I really liked the girl, Deborah. I don't know the actress's name, but I really enjoyed her. Lily James. Okay.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed her in this movie. I don't know. It was a bit hit or miss for me. I'm not sure the acting was the strong point in some places, but the quieter moments where it was just Lily James and Ansel, I thought were beautiful. Jamie Foxx is very menacing. I like John Hamm as an actor. And like I said, Christopher Plummer's great in everything he does. It's just, he can be very sinister and quiet and sometimes very aggressive, but you always believe you're in danger, which I think is good. Although some of his cliches were, a little too much for me. Now, when we get to acting and talk movie Drive, that's like 80% of the movie is based on the the slow shots, very few cuts, lingering on their faces. You almost are like reading into the thoughts behind what's going on. I'm a big fan of Albert Brooks. I like Ryan Gosling. I like everybody in the movie, really. Ron Perlman is kind of a one-note character, but he does have the interesting story at the end where he's, basically venting about how he's being treated. The acting in Drive, though, is really off the charts, in my opinion, because it takes a lot of confidence in your actors to hold a shot that long on their face and actually feel comfortable you're getting something out of it. And it's very differently acted. There's like doing nothing is kind of the default of some of the facial expressions they're pulling or things they're doing sometimes, especially at the end. Okay, we'll get spoiler territory, but the ending where you don't know whether he lives or dies, it's like, wow, this is just a longer example of what you were doing in almost every other scene, just kind of basically staring. Mm-hmm. But it fits and it makes sense, and I felt like it worked in the movie. I think they're both really well acted movies, but man, very different styles. The drivers could not be more opposite in their approach to like dealing with people around them, and their frenetic versus being very quiet and methodical and slow. And Ansel Elgort is constantly moving, like jumping, vibrating all over the scene. And Ryan Gosling, you think, is maybe a statue sometimes.
Well, I've always wondered. I've had a suspicion that Ryan Gosling might actually be a robot or something like that, because I've seen so many roles where he kind of plays that, and I think one of the first roles that I was introduced to might have been Drive, and he is frighteningly kind of low key and kind of expressionless through much of it, and he's a little bit like that in the new Blade Runner movie too. So he might actually be a replicant. He might be some sort of android creation. I'm not sure. Now, if I had never seen things like La La Land or something, I might actually think he's a robot. But I think he does have some range.
You think they can't make a robot that sings and dances?
Maybe he's an advanced model. I don't know. Oh. But I think actually the acting in both of these movies is very strong. And I'm wondering, does Christopher Plummer replace in all aspects of life now that we need to every time we like, even when we're talking about?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Gabe. Christopher Plummer was the head of the bank robbing gang.
Oh, right.
In Baby Driver.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So yes. So the answer to my question is yes. Okay.
Gabe, are you a robot?
I might be.
There's no way he's a robot. There's no one to make a robot that white. There's no way.
Have you seen iRobot? That's the only other robot I can think of that's as white as Gabe. I'm a prototype.
An old prototype.
Yeah, getting up there. Obsolete. Yeah, but no, I enjoy the acting very much in both of these films. But like Kyle said, they're very different as far as the kind of the tone. And I do think it comes down to directing. So I'll save a little bit of that for the directing. But the pacing in Drive and the acting in Drive is very understated, very low key. And like Kyle said, it's more about what you read into the subtleties of the acting than what happens in Baby Driver. Baby Driver is very in your face. But again, I think it all comes down to the music. And they're all these characters are notes in those songs to a certain degree, and all these songs are very upbeat and they're always moving in some way or another, and there's rarely a pause. So that I think that the acting styles are very different, but all very good, very solid performances all around.
I did not like Ron Perlman as his character at all. I don't know. I thought that was a miscast, and I almost thought Alan Brooks was a miscast too. Honestly, I just kept thinking of Nemo, Finding Nemo, when he's talking. That's terrible, I know, but because I like Alan Brooks, but I didn't feel like him and Ron Perlman together were just, I don't know, it didn't seem to work for me. And then once again, Ron Perlman, I like Ron Perlman. I don't hate him like I do Jeremy Renner. Let's get that clear. I just kept picturing Hellboy, like when he was talking. Right. I'm just like, just for some reason he wasn't believable to me. I don't know. So I think though, in my opinion, those were two misfire casts out of in that movie. And then in Baby Driver, to me, Jamie Foxx is he's kind of playing the same kind of bad type role anymore in any of his movies. It seems like that's like his thing now, and I don't know. It didn't seem like it was much of a stretch for him, but I enjoyed everyone else, and I know we're not saying Kevin Spacey's name, but he was fine.
Who?
He was fine.
Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Kevin
what I heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, if Denzel Washington was in Drive, it was an amazing movie of all time. But,
best actor.
Yep.
I'm going to disagree with Tosh. I feel like the casting in Drive or in Baby Driver was pretty good. I thought I'm going back and forth here. Why do we pick two movies with titles so similar? So I thought the casting in Drive was really, really bold. Like when Albert Brooks' name came up at the beginning, I'm kind of like, I don't know, but I thought it was a really good role for him. Ron Perlman was, like you said, he was kind of flat, but it was overshadowed by the fact with Carey Mulligan and Ryan Gosling and Oscar Isaac. I just, I thought they did a really good job casting and picked the right people to be in it. I mean, after seeing Ryan Gosling in The Nice Guys, he can do anything he wants. So, and Lars and the Real Girl. I mean, he's got really good range, and
Don't forget Wanna Slit Your Wrist, Blue Valentine.
Oh God, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
that's another one where I thought like, oh, he's a robot. But yeah, I think about that movie and I'm like, oh, I never want to see that again.
I've never seen it. I don't know why. It's hard to watch.
It's not a bad movie. But it's a rough watch.
Really depressing.
It's like watching a really good scene in an acting class in like freshman year of college. Where you're just like, wow, this is a really good scene. And like, are they done yet? So yeah. I think they really love each other. Oh, he's dead. So anyway, I think I thought the casting in both of them were pretty good. The one, actually, I'll be honest with you, the one that really stood out to me is like, I don't really think that was a great idea, was John Hamm. I love him. He's fantastic in everything he does. We just did The Town and he was great in that. This was just weird to see him go all psychotic and stuff. And just like, I know what a fun laid back guy he is in real life. And that was just really a stretch to see him, towards the end of Baby Driver.
And even as kind of that character, he was kind of strangely likable. But maybe that's,
because he's attractive. Let's get to the chase. He's ridiculously good.
It's true. I was just, there was just something today. They were talking about how in politics, all other things being equal, it's usually the more attractive candidate that wins. So yeah, so even though he's a psychopath and he's attractive, I still kind of find him likable.
Yeah,
but I think he had a hard time pulling off truly psychotic and truly dangerous to a certain degree.
Yeah, when he loses it in the diner, like was it 20 minutes from the end of the movie? That's where I'm just like, I don't know, John Hamm. That's he's got such a calm demeanor about him in all of his movies that he's got a handle on the situation no matter how crazy it gets. And this was just such a departure for him. So
what you're saying is he's more like a George Clooney. Like Clooney always seems to be the calm, cool, collected guy, and then when he does not act like that, it's kind of a shock.
A little bit, unless it's for comedy. I mean, George Clooney does the crazy stuff for like a comedic effect. It works, but for like when he's seriously crazy, I don't think so. And the other thing I want to say too is, I probably should have brought this up in writing, but I'm going to attribute it to acting because I have never liked the twist on Kevin Spacey's character at the end. His flip flop at the end where he does it for love. I was just that was like the biggest letdown ever, where I could not believe that I was like, really? Like, oh, look how cute you two are. I'm going to fucking throw everything away for you and your girlfriend. I'm like, it completely undermined how badass and businessman and by the numbers he was. And suddenly it's like, oh, he's going to do it for love. And I was just like, oh man, that's not cool.
Yeah.
There's so many other motivations they could have given him. And if, that's the biggest part of Baby Driver that just completely turned me off.
Yeah, you would think that an experienced actor like Christopher Plummer would have made a better choice there.
Yeah.
Though when you're that old, you have to make a decision that's gonna, how many stunt people do you want to use? It's like when Christopher, who was the one who was Count Dooku?
Oh,
and Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Whenever you watch the Star Wars that he was in, every fight scene was from behind because you're like, 90-year-old Christopher Lee is not doing this. So, when Christopher Plummer comes out at the end and he's standing in front of that car, I mean, how badass do you want him to do? He's not doing a flip over that car.
Maybe he had the Force. You ever thought about that?
If you had the dark side of the Force, would you let yourself look like that? Can't you change your face? Like, man, he looked old. He looked really old. You can't stop that from happening.
Yeah, but he's a heavy metal.
Maybe
he is a heavy metal dude. That's true.
Maybe he's hanging out with John Hamm just because he's ridiculously good looking and is trying to learn how to become good looking.
You think he's trying to like Dorian Gray John Hamm, like steal his face?
That could be. That's why John Hamm went crazy towards the end of the movie.
That's why it's called
the whole thing about
it's called Face Off 2.
The whole thing about John Hamm was like, I kept thinking, who told you to undercut your hair to make you look scary? Because I was like, why are you wearing your hair like that? You're John Hamm. It's weird. Although he still looks handsome with that haircut, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I wish I had
good-looking
hair.
man. Jesus.
What an asshole.
He seems like a cool dude. Like I've heard him on a lot of comedy podcasts. It's funny how much he's into comedy. And he just seems like such a cool dude.
So apparently, I was reading in some of the other trivia, the director for Drive was actually looking for porn stars to fill the Blanche role, and none of them just could act,
Oh, really?
Because he had this idea of what this woman should look like. So then he met Christina Hendricks, and I have to say, great choice. I love Christina Hendricks. I think she's beautiful. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, there's a Mad Men connection between these movies, isn't there?
Is.
Oh, yeah.
There is.
Yeah, there is. Wow.
All right. Let's put it to a vote if you guys don't have anything else to say about acting. Going, gone. Kyle.
I'm going to give this one a Drive. I think it's just superbly acted by the players.
All right. Josh.
Never vote against Kevin Spacey, even when he does bad things. Baby Driver.
Tom.
Were you picked for jury duty or something? I never vote against Kevin Spacey. Well, you're out.
No, he wanted to get out of jury.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go Drive 2. I just assumed that they thought they were making a short film.
They made a sequel?
Drive 2.
There you go, Gabe.
That joke never gets old.
You know, one actor we haven't mentioned, who's one of my favorites, is in Drive, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic, and it's a departure from what we see him as Walter White in Breaking Bad. I think
it's
I'm
kind of like everything else he's done, where he's like this goofy character,
like
the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yep, true. I think I'm going to go with Drive as well on this one.
All right. Another actor that I really like, John Bernthal. I was hoping that he was going to be in there more, but
Yeah, he was great.
yeah,
He's like the slightly less crazy white Jamie Foxx.
right.
He's like the dangerous nutty one, and then
Yeah.
they just replace him, like upgrade him with crazier Jamie Foxx.
That's true.
It's funny because you're just like, oh God, I'm glad he's out of here, and then you're like, oh God, where'd he go?
How do we get him back?
According to Edgar Wright, each script sent to the main actors that were wanted for their respective roles included an iPod that contained a list of songs that was to be played, arranged in specific order while reading a particular scene for the movie in order to emphasize the tone. So that was my piece of trivia that I was like dying to put out because I think that's awesome. The driver and Irene actually say very little to each other, primarily because Ryan Gosling and Carey Mulligan felt that their scene should be more focused on the mood and refused to say many of the scripted lines. Mulligan summarized making the film as quote unquote staring longingly at Ryan Gosling for hours each day.
I would love to see the script.
I'm sure
for
he hears
Drive.
that a lot.
Has
Yeah.
anyone ever done a word count on Drive? Because I bet you Albert Brooks has
The most
60%
lines.
of the lines.
Right. And then Bryan Cranston, I would guess.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, in the trivia, Bryan Cranston even said that he ad-libbed most of his stuff because he was just trying to fill in that space. So Driver didn't have to say too much, or the kid. There is actually a word count for how many words the driver actually. Here it is. Gosling's performance is marked by the minimalist dialogue, with Driver only speaking a few words at a time, if at all. The entire film, Driver speaks only 116 lines, with a total
Jesus.
of 891 words.
That's crazy.
Nice thing about that, Gosling didn't have to memorize anything. Day of the shoot, like, oh, you have 2 lines memorized. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be hard though. They point a camera at you and they're like, "Don't." His choice is not to do anything.
Right.
That feels like that's the difficult choice.
Well,
He's a robot.
Yeah,
though.
If the
but
camera
he's
point
a
at you,
robot.
want to do something.
Yeah, but it's not like he wasn't doing
Right.
anything.
Oh,
He just
no.
wasn't
I know.
speaking.
I was
Even
telling.
he was
it on
driving.
camera seems like it was difficult.
He was driving. Yeah, duh.
Yeah, he was driving.
Now,
Guys.
I told Amanda, I told her, I said, I really enjoyed Drive just because they were more of the show, don't tell type of, like you could tell that they were falling for each other and just some of the emotions that were felt. They weren't saying, I am angry or I am happy. They were just showing it. And I really like that about it. So let's move on to our third round, which is directing.
Can we talk about Edgar Wright and how, and this might go with editing, but how the beats match the guns?
Oh yeah, it was crazy
Yes,
how
go
meticulous
ahead.
it was all lined up.
It was great.
In the first long take, that he's walking. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
I was like, man, that was, and then just the music and how it was just. I enjoyed Edgar Wright a lot, and I know this is probably not his strongest film. I mean, we could debate that, but I thought he did a great job with choreography, the music chosen, just everything about it. But then you go to Drive, and Tom kind of touched on this beginning, the long close-up shots that drag on forever and ever, and a ton of pacing issues I thought Drive had, and and Tom talked about this too, is it could have been a 15-minute movie, and I still think that too. Tom, I wrote that down as one of my things. Is like it could have been way shorter, and
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, well, the pacing for Baby Driver is just fantastic. The editing, the pacing, the shot choices, the music, all of it just comes together just beautifully. It really is. It's fantastic. Now I don't dislike the pacing of Drive, and it's clearly intentional that to have that kind of calculated, slower pacing. It's definitely a slow burn, which you wouldn't think of out of a film that's about a stunt driver who drives, getaway cars on the side. But it's very intentional. But it's definitely not for everybody. Edgar Wright, I think, is probably known for the pacing of his films. I think of other great examples of that, like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. The pacing in that film is just fantastic. Mm-hmm. And even stuff like Shaun of the Dead. There's just no wasted time. It's always moving, and there's always something meaningful happening, and it's just really well put together.
I think both these movies are masterfully directed in two very different ways. Edgar Wright, to me, is one of the greatest living directors, in my opinion, and creates the most cohesive worlds. Once you're in them, he's carrying you along the whole time. You're not thinking about anything else. You're in this movie. Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, these kind of movies to me are almost perfect films because of how tonally tight they are, and how once you're in them, you're in this movie, and it's what's going on with your life for the next 2 hours. You never feel disappointed or upset or thinking about something else. You're never distracted. You're just in these movies. And Baby Driver was like that from the beginning, where, it starts going 100 miles an hour, and then it shifts tones so much. Both of these movies do. Drive, I forgot how violent Drive got at points. I hadn't seen it in a long time. But that long, slow movie makes that violence so much more shocking and brutal when it happens, because it's the only thing in the movie that happens quickly. With the exception of the car chase, the violence happens very quickly and suddenly. Everything else is very slow and drawn out. Baby Driver is exactly the opposite. Everything's happening very fast. They're shifting. I would say they shift genres during Drive, from a heist movie to basically a music video where he's going to get coffee. That's basically a long music video with him even lip syncing, and those words and things in the background. It's crazy. And then when they switch to the drama of just him and Deborah in the car, they're much closer, tighter on the shots. Everything slows down. It's much more intimate. And then all the car chases and everything, it just kind of zooms back out, becomes much more bright and colorful. I think they're both masterfully done. They have that mismatch of pacing where in Drive, the slowness, you're surprised by the violence, and in Baby Driver, everything's so fast that you get kind of sucked in and slows down and you get to those dramatic moments. So I think both of these movies are wonderful examples of excellently directed films.
I don't really know if I have anything else to add to what you guys said. I don't, the way Drive starts, it's funny because like I said, I watched it when it first came out, and there was something about it where I'm like, God, there was something I didn't like about this movie. And then the opening scene happened, and I was like, oh, no, maybe I'm not remembering this right. This is actually really enjoyable, and it sucked me in. And then about 25 minutes into the movie, I'm like, oh, yeah, now I remember. They're either driving or staring at each other. And so, fortunately, never at the same time. But they're, I think, yeah, and it's really funny because 10 minutes in after the first getaway, I was like, God, I really like this. I'm really into it. And then when I'm like 10 minutes from the end of the movie, I could not wait for it to end. And I just was like pulling my hair out, and I couldn't wait to get away from it. So despite the fact that I gave it better points for writing and acting. I just I feel like the directing in Baby Driver, I mean, the car chases alone in Baby Driver trump anything else in Drive, just because they're so slick and polished. I absolutely love them. So
I just want to quote Nick Frost from Hot Fuzz. You've never seen Bad Boys 2. Like it just shows that Edgar Wright loves action, especially car chase action. It's so well planned. But I have to say, I kind of feel like I need to go get on Nicholas Winding Refn, however you say his name. Just kind of defend him a little bit. I really like the opening scene, where you're in the getaway car. You never leave the getaway car, and you're like stuck in that car, and I think I read someone's description he's like a fish hiding from sharks. The cops are the sharks, and he's just doing these ins and outs instead of just trying to go as fast as he can. He's using some speed, but also he's hiding and using the city to his advantage. I really, really liked that. I really like the music. I mean, we've spoken about the music for both of these films. Edgar Wright. I'll save this for later, but I really like the use of that electronica. What would you guys call that? Electronica? I don't know.
Synthwave? Isn't that what they call it now?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. The one song though, was it "We Can Be a Hero" or
Real Hero?
Yeah, Real Hero.
Yeah.
That song kind of started getting on my nerves. There was a part though in Baby Driver, about 2/3 into the film, I just felt like it was slowing down. Like, I hate to say it, but it felt to me like something happened, but then it picked right back up. But I can't put my finger on where I felt like it lost its pacing. And I agree with Kyle totally, where the slowness of Drive really affects you when you see the violence, because it happens so fast, especially in that hotel room or motel room. It's like, holy crap, what's going on? I have to say, and also, again, I agree with Kyle. I think these are two very well-directed films. They kind of deal with the same subject matter, but they deal with it differently. It almost feels like Drive is more of an independent film feel to it. And Baby Driver feels like something that was sat down and meticulously rewritten and listened, the music's listened to and the beats are all there, and he has it all timed out. And that's one of the reasons why I love Edgar Wright. But yeah, that's my. Oh, and another thing, I suppose this could be in directing. Why does Driver wear that mask when he goes after Ron Perlman? Does anyone know?
So I actually watched some videos about this afterwards.
Yeah. And
there are a couple theories. One being that it's just he's going to case the joint, so he doesn't want to take the chance that someone will recognize his face, especially Nino. But the other one is also that he sees himself as a hero, so he's wearing this mask like a superhero would, or he is becoming this different person now that he's going to take out Nino and save the girl, and he's becoming this hero person that he wants to be. Ryan Gosling said in an interview that the way he justified some of the things that Driver does is that he's seen way too many movies and he's starting to confuse his real life with what happens in those movies, because he's been on the set of so many of them and seen so many of them. He's starting to get confused on what's real life and what's in a movie and what's really happening to him.
What?
That's what he that's what I heard.
I hope that's not true. That just angers me.
I mean, I could see him like wearing it when he walks up to the place, but like after he starts and he knows he's gonna, knock him off the cliff and then go after him, it's like, well, take the mask off.
He's also had these things happening where his chance at what he thought was going to be a better person, to be a better man, is gone now.
Right.
And he sees that, much like the fable of the scorpion and the frog, he sees who he truly is. And even though he has this chance now to do something good, he's still this kind of dark, violent figure. So I'm not sure really what's going on in his head. There were some interesting things pointed out. If you watch the driver's outfit during certain parts of the movies, as he's starting to come apart and he sees how things are going bad, it's the only time in the movie where his jacket collar is crooked, because the rest of the movie he's very meticulously dressed, very clean, very organized. And then you see as he's starting to lose it, his whole demeanor becomes more disheveled. He gets more and more agitated. His clothing gets dirtier and more out of sorts. So there is a reason behind it. What the real reason is for him wearing the mask, I don't know if it's ever been discussed, but there are a few theories out there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that was the only thing that was kind of really bugging me about these two films. So Edgar Wright, at one point, when we started the studio, we had this pantheon of the director gods. It was Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, and Kevin Smith. And then Amanda one day, she goes, "Hey, I'm a big part of this. I want to throw one in there." I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" And she says Edgar Wright. And there's no way I could say no to that. So we have the pantheon of directors for the studio.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, our Mount Rushmore. And it's, man, I can't say enough great stuff about Edgar Wright. I love his stuff. He gets the timing. I think all of you talked about the timing, and you can tell in all of his films. He's got the comedic timing. He's got the action timing. He sees his films through the eyes of an editor, and I really, really enjoy that, because I started out as an editor. Like, that's what I wanted to do with my life, was be a film and video editor. But I really dig his stuff. And now I will get off my soapbox and walk away.
So Edgar Wright, we're talking about, he texted James Gunn, who is actually the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, to make sure that they didn't have the same songs in their films. Like, they made sure they didn't have a cross, like the same songs.
Really?
So like, I'll send this an article about it, and their text conversation is really funny, because they say, "Do you have any Queen?" No. Well, I do. Do you have any like Barry White? No, but I do. But they're not telling each other what songs they're using. They're just making sure that they're not. But they made sure that they didn't have the same songs, as that'd be embarrassing. So that's kind of funny. And it makes sense, because those two both, use songs that we've talked about before, and that's kind of makes sense.
Well, they probably came out in the same year, didn't they? 2017?
Yeah.
Would that have been Guardians 2?
That would have been Guardians 2, I believe.
Yep, Guardians 2 came out before Baby Driver. But yep.
All right, boyos. Let's go ahead and put it to a vote. Tosh.
Baby Driver.
Tom.
Yeah, Baby Driver.
Gabe.
Yeah, I have to go definitively with Edgar Wright and Baby Driver.
All right. And Kyle.
Make it a foursome.
All right.
All right.
All right. Despite the driving storyline, the director Nicholas Winding Refn, I don't even know if I'm saying his last name right, does not have any interest in cars. He doesn't hold a driver's license and has failed his driving test 8 times.
What?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Well done. Well done.
That feels like something he did for trivia.
This is going to look great on my
reason.
IMDb
He's just done
page.
now.
There's no reason after 5 or so to keep trying.
The tracking shot in Baby Driver in the beginning of the film, where Baby gets coffee, took 28 takes. The 21st take is the one used in the movie. That is incredible. Like, I watched that whole thing.
How long is that shot?
And
Does anybody know how long that is?
I didn't time it out.
Is
God
it? It's
damn.
a single shot.
It
There's
is
no
a single shot.
Yeah, I think so.
wipes in
Yeah,
there.
There's no
Nope,
cuts.
it is a
Yeah.
single shot.
All right.
And it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. All right. Let's move on to our fourth and final round overall.
All right, so this is actually, it's easier than I probably think it's going to be. Baby Driver is a fun movie. I will watch Baby Driver again for repeatability. I don't know. Here's what will happen, actually. 2 years from now, I'll forget how much I dislike Drive, and I will put it in again, and I'll get 20 minutes into it, and I'll get really pissed off at myself, like, why did you do this? But I won't be able to turn it off because I get disinterested right about the time Oscar Isaac gets out of jail. And I'm like, oh, shit, Poe Dameron's coming. I'll keep watching. And then he gets killed. I'm like, oh, shit. But this is where the good stuff starts with Albert Brooks. And then I get sucked in for the entire thing. So I like Baby Driver a lot more. Like I said, it's just more fun. It's more entertaining. When Drive came out, there was so much acclaim about how original and daring and bold it was, and I get the impression from like going around and reading comments from people that that tarnish is starting to wear off a bit. I don't feel like it's going to be the classic movie that we all thought it was when it first came out, and I don't know really why it doesn't really hold up that well, I think, in repeat viewings. But whereas Baby Driver, there's so much to take in. And, if you want to watch Baby Driver for the character development, if you want to watch Baby Driver for the dialogue, if you want to watch Baby Driver for the great car chases, there's something in there for everybody. And it's funny. I mean, Baby Driver's got some very funny parts to it during some very serious scenes, which is great. So I love Edgar Wright. He's one of those directors where I'm always kind of hopping on IMDb to find out what he's doing next and if he's dabbling in any of the franchises that I'm interested in. So this one's pretty cut and dry. Drive has its good points, but certainly not enough to match up with Baby Driver, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I feel like the music is really instrumental in both of these films. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the music. And actually, I saw Drive. It got a lot of great press when it first came out. So I actually saw it in the theater, and I liked the music enough that I actually bought the soundtrack, and I listened to the soundtrack minus the songs with lyrics. I listen to the soundtrack like when I'm working and that kind of thing. It's actually a good mellow soundtrack for that.
Does it drive you?
Yes, it gives me drive to keep working. And obviously the soundtrack is instrumental in Baby Driver. I mean, like I said before, I'm sure most of those songs were no pun intended.
Okay.
But it was instrumental. I'm sure those songs were in mind when it was being written, and so they, you can't separate that soundtrack from that movie in any way. Although I'm not sure that that's the kind of stuff I would listen to. I'm not sure I would get that soundtrack and listen to it, for work. It's a little bit too, it's a little bit too upbeat, a little bit too. It would be distracting for me at work. But I think the music, in different ways, the music in both of these films is really just fantastic.
Yeah, they really drive the movies. But Baby Driver, that's about the opposite of what my musical tastes are, really. But with the exception of Easy Like Sunday Morning, I do dig that song. But man, the editing in both these movies, very different, but both very good. I mean, excellently directed, well-written films with a lot of good acting and some great acting in places. The car chases in Baby Driver are outstanding. I want to say that I remember reading that they're almost entirely practical and almost no CGI, which is mind-blowing because
that is correct.
I feel like with the exception of Fast and the Furious, you don't get movies that really do that anymore, that have huge
or like
car chase set pieces like that aren't always just quick cuts, because this wasn't like a Michael Bay car chase. Like it was actually interesting and grabbed your attention.
Hey,
it wasn't
now.
three.
Hey, now.
It wasn't 3,000 cuts.
Right. Well, and then you also think of something like Mad Max Fury Road too, where
Yes.
a lot of their
So
car
good.
stuff was practical.
Right. And that actually brings up a good point. When you talk about movies that are meticulously crafted, that's one of those movies I think of. Mad Max Fury Road, Baby Driver's up there, where someone really put in the time, they really put in the effort. This was not an attempt to like make money or get a movie into the theater or get an award or anything. Like this was something that Edgar Wright loved and really, really wanted to do. And I've always felt that with his movies, that he puts so much into his movies, and that's something I appreciate. One of the reasons he's one of my absolutely favorite directors. But these movies to me were very close. I couldn't believe the similarities between the drivers in some points, and then how opposite they were. I had forgotten all the violent parts of Drive, so they took me by surprise again. And I was surprised by how much I liked the slow moments in Baby Driver and how it kind of felt like a song and would switch genres and almost like hitting skip or shuffle on your iPod at certain points. So, man, these are two of the toughest movies for me to separate out of all the ones we've watched because I dug them both. Sometimes you watch two movies and one of them you go, oh, that's not nearly as good as the other one or not nearly as good as I remember. But I really dug both these movies for very different reasons. And I got to say, out of all the Driver Getaway movies, these got to be two of my top five because I can't think of three other ones.
Well, speaking of the drivers and how similar they are, I'm wondering what you guys think of like Ryan Gosling's character in Drive and the fact that he speaks so little and that there are these really shocking outbursts of violence at times. What is the psychology of his character to you? There's a part of me that feels like he's actually a psychopath.
So do you know the fable of the scorpion and the frog? It's one of Aesop's fables. They kind of mention it in the movie.
He does, and he's wearing the scorpion thing on his jacket. To me, what I'm drawing from it is he has a dark nature, is a violent person, and has chosen to live this life. But he sees these glimpses of what he could be, what he wants to be, if he could just get out of this, if he had made different choices. But in the end, you see that his nature, like the scorpion in the parable, he stings. He stings Carey Mulligan. He murders that man in the elevator. He doesn't just incapacitate him; he brutalizes him. And when he literally crushed, like his skull breaks open.
When he turns and looks at her, you see that he knows that's it. She has seen who he is, like what he is at his core, and there's no longer a chance for them. So even though it's something he may have wanted, he can't change his nature. So that's just the person that he is. And in the end, when he does become the hero that he wants to be, it's all through violence. And even though it helps her, it ruins his chance at happiness. It gets him stabbed. It gets people hurt. It involves destruction. But it's that little bit of happiness he gets at the end, knowing she's safe. But he just can't change his nature and the person that he is.
And the other thing is with these two characters is that we don't get it's a little bit like the narrator in Fight Club and that kind of thing. We don't even know his name, really, do we?
He's called Driver.
He's just called Driver. Or
Driver.
Or
Yeah,
Kid.
He doesn't really have a name.
Yep.
We don't really know a lot about his past. We don't know. What drove him to be so violent? What drove him to be capable with, so to speak, with guns and that kind of thing? Because there's that part where he's beating up like hitmen and taking their guns and killing others. And we don't know anything about him and how he got here. And I feel like there's a little bit of that in Baby Driver too, is that we don't really know his name either, do we? They just call him Baby, but that's not really
actually
his
you
name.
find out.
You find out it's Miles.
Yeah,
it's Miles later on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't recall that, but we don't know a lot about him either, and we know a little bit about his past. The car accident with his parents and that kind of thing. We know, we get a little bit more about him, but we don't really know much about what drives him and how, so to speak. I can't help it. It just
Are you getting paid by the pun tonight?
I guess I'm rich.
We get paid. When did that happen?
You don't.
We didn't tell Josh that once he came back.
Way to let the cat out of the bag.
Podcast? But anyway, I just feel like it's interesting that we can have movies that are centered around these characters that we don't know much about. I don't know. Did you guys feel like we didn't know a lot about these characters, but it doesn't matter that much?
It doesn't matter, I don't think.
No,
it doesn't.
which is great because you don't want to slow drive down.
Right.
If you go any slower, the movie'd be called Reverse,
But
Hard.
or at least neutral.
Park.
Going for a Sunday drive.
All right.
Slow down.
Real quick, Kyle was talking about Getaway. He doesn't really know very many other Getaway movies, so I Googled it, and of course it just takes me to there's a great Steve McQueen movie called The Getaway, which I really enjoy. But then it's just movies about cars. So, of course, on here is Drive and Baby Driver. And, of course, the Fast and the Furious movies, 1 through 12, however many it is. I watched 8 recently. Oh, my God. They might as well just call it...
8 of them or number 8?
Number 8. I just like to watch them and just
Which
laugh.
one is number 8?
The Fate of the Furious.
Oh,
it's with the submarine.
Or Dom. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. Then there's, of course, the original Gone in 60 Seconds, which is absolutely nuts. And you guys should read up more about the original. And this crazy guy that had a bunch of money wanted to make a film about a guy stealing a car. And then one of my favorites, the 2000 remake of Gone in 60 Seconds. There's the Transporter films. There is, of course, the Mad Max films.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, Christine.
But have they ever done
here.
a movie where the getaway driver owns a train? Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something.
The slowest getaway ever.
Used Cars is on here.
Shoveling coal.
Yeah, just shoveling coal
For 20 minutes. Get this thing rolling.
Don't forget the Italian Job, the first one, and the remake. The remake's actually a lot of fun.
Are you just gonna like take all of our recommendations before you say them? Is that the plan?
maybe,
I'm sorry.
maybe.
All right, I'll shut up. So I was just
Too late now. You went through all 3 I had. So.
And there's Smokey and the Bandits. Don't forget Smokey and the Bandits.
Oh, for fuck's sake, dude!
There's what?
Smokey and the Bandits.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I know you're not going to pick this, Tom, but from 1958, the poster is fantastic. Robert Mitchum is in a movie called Thunder Road.
Dude,
You're not picking Thunder Road. Stop. All right. Let's go ahead and put this to a vote, gentlemen. Tom.
Baby Driver. I got to make it up to them for screwing them in the first 2 rounds.
Gabe.
Wow. Yeah, I like both of these movies. They're very different from each other, but I like them both very much. This is tough. I'm going to go with Baby Driver as well.
All right, Kyle.
I like my movies like I like my women, slow and pretentious. I go with Drive.
You crazy.
Tosh.
Baby Driver.
All right. Okay. My trivia. There it is. The Mike Myers masks actually were supposed to be the mask of Michael Myers from the Halloween series. I laughed so hard at that. But the producers...
It's such a good gag.
Yeah. But
it's such a good gag.
But hold on, it gets even better. But the producers were unable to obtain legal permission. Edgar Wright then reached out to the comedian Mike Myers about using masks of his likeness instead, who thought the scene was funny and gave his blessing.
Holy shit, that's funny.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
While working on Drive, Carey Mulligan moved in with Nicholas Winding Refn his wife, and 2 daughters in their home in Los Angeles. Hossein Amini, the film screenwriter, also lived with Refn's family during the duration of the film's shoot. Refn and Amini made significant changes to the original script during this time. There you go. Let's move on to our recommendations while I try to do simple math. We'll start it off with Gabe.
Recommendations, yes. I was trying to think of other movies like this that I had seen, and I was going to recommend one called The Driver, but I didn't actually finish it. So I didn't.
It's not
I
that
started
good.
it, and it's interesting. But I didn't want to recommend it without actually having a whole kind of complete view of it. But it is interesting how the characters are very similar. This is a movie from 1978. But it's very interesting how the characters are very quiet. They don't talk a lot, and they almost seem to have this psychopathic nature to them. That is interesting. But instead, I'm going to recommend Death Proof from the Grindhouse.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, because and it's not necessarily a car kind of like a car chase or getaway kind of movie, but it's a fantastic ending with the whole stunts. The stunt woman on the car at the end. It's just fantastic. It's really awesome. Check out Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino.
Sorry, fun fact. When those were shown as a double feature, I don't know if you guys saw them in the theater, but they had the fake trailers. And Edgar Wright, he directed Don't.
Yeah, and there is a connection because of that. Yeah, Edgar Wright actually did one of the little fake trailers in it. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go check out Death Proof. It's pretty cool. It's pretty
Good
fun.
choice, man. Good choice. All right, Kyle.
Well, keeping with my normal style, I'm going to recommend something that doesn't have anything to do with these 2 movies. It's a British situational comedy called Peep Show. It is a first-person situational comedy where it switches point of view from the 2 main characters, and you can also hear their internal thoughts, regardless of how ridiculous they are. And it is absolutely hilarious. The first few seasons are good, but once you get to the 4th season, it really becomes just beautiful, spectacular. Some of the craziest situations that are handled so well and put together. And I feel like I agree with my friend Jason Wright on this. If American TV tried to do this, they would fuck this completely up. But these 2 British guys did an amazing job creating these insane scenarios where you just feel so cringy and like bad things are about to happen. But there's a lesson to it. Tell the truth.
Uh-oh, we lost Kyle.
Yep, Kyle's gone. Can you hear us, Kyle?
Oh my God, American TV got to him.
Hold on. Hey.
There he is.
Is he back?
See what happens. I do this in my underwear on the sofa, on my Xbox. So if I don't move my controller every once in a while, it shuts off, and that powers down my microphone.
Oh.
So anyways, Peep Show. Watch it.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you. Tosh.
So we're talking about action movies. This is a fairly new release. Maybe you guys heard of this. It did pretty well at the box office last week. Incredibles 2. If you've seen Incredibles 1, it is a fantastic sequel, Incredibles 2. Some of the best action scenes that I've ever seen in a movie. And I know it's animated, but incredible. Like Elastigirls.
Oh, nice.
It's fantastic. Like beautiful animation, beautiful story. Incredible 2.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Tosh. Tom.
Yep.
That is a great recommendation. There's one fight in particular with Violet, and I won't want to spoil it, but Violet against one of the other superheroes. It is the most.
Fantastic.
It is so creative what they came up with, and I didn't want it to stop. I was like, just make a movie about that fight.
Oh, so good.
Okay, so the movie recommendation I am going to make is the movie that I really hated the first time I saw it. I thought it was so freaking stupid, and then all my friends said, no, give it a second chance. Now that you know what they're trying to do, go back and watch it again. And now this movie sits at number 4 on my all-time movies list. So Thank you, friends, for badgering me. And my recommendation is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I absolutely love this movie. I am always in the mood to watch Scott Pilgrim, and it's so funny and it's so creative, and I think it's Edgar Wright's best movie. So, sorry, Simon Pegg, but I've got the colored LP that I listen to all the time, soundtrack, and
really?
it is.
I should get that.
It's really awesome, and it's really cool to have that big art and the hey, I'm listening to this, but anyway, it's such a joy, and Michael Cera, and I'm not just going to single out Michael Cera. The entire cast, top to bottom, is they're just a joy to watch, and the timing and the script, everything is really, really great. I have not read the graphic novels. My son has, which he's only 11. I should probably be concerned about that, but whatever. But from what he's told me, they did a really, really good job. But then I was like, hey, you're too young to watch this. Go to bed. So,
Go read your graphic novel.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not too graphic. So anyway, Scott Pilgrim. Definitely check it out.
All right.
For sure.
Good picks, you guys. Good picks. I'll check out Peep Show. What's that on, Kyle?
Hulu.
All right.
Check it out on Hulu. If you don't want to watch the whole series, you don't have to know much about it. Skip right to the 4th season and watch an episode called Holiday. They're about to go on a stag do, as they call it, basically a bachelor party for a wedding that the main character does not want to go through with, and it becomes one of the most insane situations, and has a great payoff at the end.
All right. Well, my recommendation is actually going to be a YouTube channel. And I will preface this by saying in the early 90s, I was starting to cut music videos by using VHS movies that I owned or that I would go rent at Blockbuster. I would take certain scenes that I remembered, threw them in there when it worked with the lyrics. And I love doing that. Like, that's what started me down this whole path of filmmaking and having a life in production right now. So I want to suggest Edgar Wright here. He has his own YouTube page, and he has 2 videos from 1993 that actually show that this guy was already kind of working on his timing and on his editing choices. Watch one called Gun Fetish, and the other one is Wheels on Wheels. Now, he has some of his other work on here, like commercials and the music video that's brought up, and, of course, trailers and outtakes and stuff like that. But check out the Gun Fetish video and the Wheels on Wheels. He did the same exact thing that I was doing, which was, VHS tapes, deck to deck type editing. And it's another reason why I really, really love Edgar Wright. So there you go. Okay, let's go ahead and find out who won. Poke the muggy.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Baby Driver!
Oh.
Oh. All right. There you go. Since everyone's blown away by that.
The end of this podcast is slower than the movie Drive.
It is. We are now called Parkcast.
We're doing a
Parkcast.
lingering shot on Tom right now. It's a
Yes.
lingering shot.
It's just looking lovingly into his eyes.
Quick, Tom, say something menacing.
I'll kill you, motherfuckers.
I don't buy
believe
it.
Fairly
I don't
menacing,
believe
I
it.
guess.
Well, you said lovingly, and I was like, it disarmed me.
All right. Where can people find you? Maybe hire you for 5 minutes at a time. Tom.
Vimeo for the time being, and then Facebook, and I don't know. Instagram sounds like where the kids are hanging out now, so probably hop over there and open an account. I don't know. What are you going to do? But generally, people can find me driving really slowly through downtown or staring at people wordlessly as I listen to forgotten songs on my Nano.
Ooh. Nice.
Which is what I call my 8-track player. What?
Oh, okay. I still have a Nano somewhere in this drawer of dead iPods. Tosh.
You can find me on the Twitters. Just search for Tosh Dillinger.
All right.
Yep.
Kyle.
If you can find me, you can do whatever you want to me for 5 minutes. I'm dead behind the eyes. Nothing shocks me anymore.
That reminds me of Ralph from The Simpsons. My favorite quote from it. I'm dead inside.
Oh.
Gabe.
Well, you can find me on Facebook, although I don't spend a lot of time there these days. Or else you can check out our films on onegenomeshort.com.
All right. Well, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever those are. You'll find a lot of pictures of my growing little boy, and maybe sometimes some pictures.
Is that a euphemism?
Nope. Not a euphemism.
Okay.
Not this time.
Okay.
Now, 2 years ago, yes, it would have been a euphemism.
So scroll past the dick pics to find your
Yes.
child.
Yes.
That's basically what you're saying. That's what your Instagram is. You want to put that on a podcast. All right, cool. I just want to see where we're going.
Oh,
That was fantastic. Thank you for derailing my script in my head.
Oh, I'll do it the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at CineSmack@gmail.com. I remembered the password, so send us some emails. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search.
I remembered the password.
Just search CineSmack. I checked it right before we started recording. I'm like, oh my God, what's the password? For July, our summer of action continues as Charlton Heston goes toe-to-toe with The Rock. California is getting a shakedown as Earthquake takes on San Andreas. For Kyle, Tom, Tosh, Gabe, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.